Hi everyone, welcome back to Kingdom Wealth Creators. If you got some capital and you're wondering whether you should start some sort of an investment or pay off an existing loan that you have, what would you do? How would you go about it? Well, if you're facing such a question, please continue watching this video till the end because it's definitely going to help you make that decision. First off, we need to differentiate between the two main types of loans that people take out today. What are those two types of loans that people take out? Pause the video now and think about it and put your answer down in the comment box, and then let's find out what the answer is. So on one side, we have these installment loans, which is what you pay off on an EMI basis. And these loans include your car loans, your personal loans, your housing loans, your student loans. Any loan which involves an EMI is called an installment loan. And usually banks or companies that finance people would give multiple installment loans. You can have multiple car loans, you could have one or two housing loans, you could have a student loan, all at the same time. As long as you're able to pay off all the EMIs together, they are more than willing to give such loans. On the other side, we have the revolving loans, and these are loans such as credit card loans or lines of credit that businesses get. Now, the thing with these loans is that the interest gets compounded, and also once you borrow something, you have to repay it back before you can get an additional amount to borrow. Now that we've cleared up what those types of loans are, let me give you some pointers as to what to do depending on what sort of loan you have. If it is a credit card loan, don't think twice about it. Close that loan immediately. Credit card loans have an interest rate of almost 35 to 40% annually. That is the highest interest rate for any sort of loan that a person can take out these days. So if you are in a credit card debt and you have a credit card loan, either use that capital to close it out, or even if you don't have capital, see if it's possible to take out a personal loan at 12 to 14% and on an EMI basis, and use the amount to close the credit card loan immediately. On a side note, if you are someone who is struggling with credit cards, take a look at our previous video where we talk about how to use a credit card wisely. Next, if you have an installment loan and you want to decide whether you want to invest or pay off the loan, there are a couple of parameters for that sort of loan that we really need to look at. First one is the interest rate. The second one is how many more years do you have left to repay the loan. So now let's take a closer look at our Excel sheet to figure out why these two parameters are crucial. All right. Now, if you look at my Excel sheet here, you will notice that there is a box for loan amount, what the interest rate is, the tenure or the number of years of the loan. You can see here that I've used my calculations. You can see what the EMI is, what the total loan amount is, and what the total interest that you will have to pay over that tenure. Right? Now, when it comes to EMI loans, there's something very interesting that you'll notice here. The first few months of the EMI, the larger chunk of the EMI would go towards your interest. But as you go down, you will see that the interest being paid out of the EMI is getting lower and lower, while the amount being paid to your principal amount is going on increasing. Towards the end, you can see that the EMI, out of the EMI, the interest has come down quite significantly, and the larger chunk of the EMI is going towards paying off the principal amount. Now, in 2016, I had bought a car, a Baleno, and we took a car loan to buy the car. And so this is what the loan looks like. I took a loan for about 8.6 lakhs. The interest rate was about 9%. The tenure was 7%. The EMI that I pay is about 13,800. And you can see here, the first few months, the interest was quite high. Out of the EMI, the amount that goes towards interest was quite high. Now it's been, 5 years? So it's 60 months that have gone by. And you can see here right now, the EMI out of the 13,800 odd rupees, only a smaller amount of it is going to the actual interest. The rest of it is going off to pay the principal amount, right? Now let's extrapolate this. Let's use a few other parameters. Now, suppose your loan was 10 lakhs, okay? So we're going to put 10 lakhs. Yeah, there you go. And your interest rate was 7. So this looks like a student loan. Okay, you have 20 years to pay it off. So this is a student loan. Now, if you look at this, you can see very interestingly, out of these 7,700 rupees of EMI, in the initial months, the amount towards the loan or the outstanding principal amount was very low, whereas the amount that went towards the interest was quite high. But as you go down the years or the months, you can see that this actually starts changing, right? So this is what is the beauty of EMI loans. The initial phase, the interest, the amount out of the EMI, the amount that goes to the interest payment is very high or quite high, and the amount that goes to actually repaying your original capital or principal amount is quite low. Towards the latter years, this reverses, where the amount that goes towards the principal amount is much higher and the amount that goes to the interest payment is quite low. Why do they do that? Well, simply because banks want to make sure they get as much as the interest possible before people close these loans. It's simple as that. That's why. All right. Now let's continue to play around with this. Assuming that the interest rate was 15%. Now this is a personal loan and we're saying a period of 10 years. Okay. So suppose I'm borrowing 10 lakhs at 15% for 10 years. You will see that the amount that is going towards the interest rate is, climbing in the initial phases. So this brings us to the question as to when should we decide if we want to close out a EMI loan, an installment loan, or when should we decide we want to actually invest the amount? And the answer is quite simple. If you take a closer look at this Excel sheet, you will notice that as long as the interest rate is, say, below 10%, okay, the total interest due is about 5.85 lakhs over the year of 10 years. But once you start zooming it out, 12%, 15%, you can see that the total interest that you have to pay becomes larger and larger. So one of the things that we got to think about is the interest rate. If the interest rate is lower, it is better to invest and just keep paying that EMI off. If the interest rate is quite large, then it makes more sense to start closing the loan rather than choosing that capital to be invested into the stock market or some other opportunity. Secondly, if it is in the beginning of the loan, because the interest payments are so high, it makes more sense to close out the loan so you can save on a lot more interest rather than investing at that time. But assume, okay, now look at this. I'm going back to my original example of 8.6 lakhs at 9% for 7 years. Now, I have 2 more years left on this loan, right? Now, in the last 2 years, so we go to 60. In the last 2 years, you can see that the total interest that I have to pay over the next 2 years is just 29,000 rupees. So and the total loan that I have to pay, the total principal amount left is about 2.9 lakh rupees. So the question for me is, should I continue to pay an EMI for a total of 29,000 as interest, over the next 2 years, or should I just close this loan of 2.9 lakhs that is outstanding? Well, if I have 2.9 lakhs in my hand, I would at this moment rather invest it, because with 2.9 lakhs, even at 10% over 2 years, I would get 58,000 rupees, which is double the interest that I have to pay on this existing loan, right? So you can see that as the loan gets pretty old, it makes more sense to just continue paying the EMI and invest the capital that you might be having lying around rather than closing out the loan. Now, the average rate of return on the Nifty or most stock markets, let's take the Nifty. The average rate of return on the Nifty has been about 15% over the last 20 years, 15% annually. So if your interest rate on your loan is less than 15%, it makes sense that you continue to pay off the EMI and invest the capital that you have, because you would get a higher return on the Nifty while maintaining that loan. If your interest rate on the loan is greater than 15%, then it makes more sense to close the loan, because your rate of return on the investment that you make in the Nifty or whatever does not match the payment that you would make on the loan. Finally, the number of years left on the loan really matters. As I explained before, showing even my own example, it makes more sense for us to invest if the number of years left is smaller or if the loan is older. It makes sense to close out the loan only if the loan is very new, because at the beginning stage, the interest rate payments are much higher. So thank you so much for watching the video. I hope it has really helped you. I'm pretty sure that those who had such a question, your answer is there in this video. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, like and share the videos that we show. See you next time.